Please join me today in meeting Scarlett Shankles, who is the Director of Education here at the Honolulu Zoo. Glad you could be with us.
Thank you.
And thank you for taking the time.
Definitely, it's my pleasure.
You know, Director of Education is a large responsibility and has different meanings, but here at the zoo, it's very specific for you.
Definitely, I see education as like my driving force to do what I love. So conservation through education. So we have multiple programs that address that issue and kind of changing the perspective of locals and tourists alike here at the zoo.
Well, I think before the program, we were chatting about the perception of zoos has changed around the world. And
definitely.
Your job definitely wants to help with that as well.
Yes, so I actually started off, before I started working here, I was kind of opposed to coming to zoos in general. But then I had a job here during the summer and it just completely shifted my perspective and I realized how important zoos are. And within the past 30, 40 years, there's been a transition of how zoos are perceived and their functionality. So it's not entertainment, it's education, us understanding wildlife.
And what do those programs look like here?
So we have zoo camps for keiki. So we start from a young age and we just range all the way up. So our keiki have camps that ranges from 5 years old to 11 years old, and we address a lot of different conservation issues, and we just try to, of course they're young, so it can't be too dark, but we try to give them ways to see the world differently and understand the connection that we have with wildlife. So either here in Hawaii and just internationally in general.
So camp is a generic word for workshops or do they actually spend the night here?
They don't spend the night here, so we're here throughout the day from 8 a.m. to 2:30 p.m. And it is lesson driven. So we try to address national science curriculum, age appropriate of course, so they're separated into different ages. And they're here just exploring the zoo, exploring the concepts that we want them to understand about different animals that we have here.
So you have the camp and any other programs that they could join? We
have our Twilight Tours, which is I think one of my favorite times to be here at the zoo. So it's an evening tour at 5:30 p.m. It just depends on the season. But you get to be here when no one's here and it's cool. You're not sweating and dehydrated in the heat.
And the animals are still awake.
The animals, well, some of them during the day, they don't see a lot of animals because it's hot and they're covered in hair and they're crepuscular, which is a natural sleeping cycle where they're up during twilight hours. So when you actually get here, the animals are waking up, they're becoming more active, you get to see them doing behaviors that you would never catch at noon or at 1 p.m.
And I know from our previous conversation that it's important for you to have local people understand, local children particularly, understand how wildlife plays into their world.
Yes. So
even though we don't have giraffes naturally
Even though we don't naturally have giraffes, I think having all of these animals as ambassadors for their species opens up this opportunity for kids to even teach adults, like why is this animal here? Why are they important in their ecosystem? So obviously we have a cycle of life, right? And we try to teach the kids what that means. So taking an animal out of an ecosystem does detrimental effects on other aspects of that ecosystem. So we want kids to take that away, teach their parents when they're like, it's just a giraffe. You're like, no, it's bigger than that. Like there's literally and figuratively, it's bigger.
So if you had a message for families as we conclude our conversation, what would that be?
I think as humans, we can be critical thinkers. We have the capability of we have such a complex brain. So tap into that and understand our connection with the wildlife and how we can positively affect it. We do address kind of like the human's effect on the habitat and species, but I think looking at how can we change it? What can we do to help? It's kind of the message we want.
Well, and I really appreciate your perspective, you know, of understanding not just the ecosystem of a region, but of the planet and our role in it.
Yes, the balance there has to be pretty big. You have to think about it.
Well, thank you so much for your time and for doing the exciting work that I think you love.
I love it, definitely.
Thank you
so much, Lila.
Mahalo to you for tuning in to Island Focus and my conversation with Scarlett Shankles, who is the Director of Education here at the Honolulu Zoo. Thank you.